Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Should Henry Cavill remain as Superman? It's a polarizing question, isn't it, everyone? But this is not about being a Hamadaverse stan or a Snyderverse stan. This question must be answered in the terms of what's best for Superman and what's best for DC live action going forward. First of all, let's ask the question everybody is asking. Is Henry Cavill too old to play Superman? Now, in most stretches of the imagination, with most actors, I would say yes. If we were recasting this role with a 39-year-old actor, I think none of us would be in favour of that. But you look at Henry Cavill, just go on his Instagram, and you can see this man is a physical fucking specimen. He looks amazing. So his age is irrelevant. Now, he can't keep on playing Superman, unfortunately for Henry, because of the clusterfuck that the DCEU is. His Superman has been on the shelf since 2017. So they have wasted a lot of years. It's their fault that he's 39 years old and we haven't seen him since Zack Snyder's Justice League and Justice League. But he is 39. And he probably can do one more Superman movie because films take time. You know, if they announce a Henry Cavill project now, it's not going to be, we're not going to see it for 2 or 3 years. So his age is an issue. But at this moment in time, as I say, he is a physical specimen. And no, he's not too old to play Superman at this moment in time. If your answer is yes, that Henry Cavill should remain as Superman, what do we do here? Do we give him a movie? Do we give him cameos? The original plan back in 2017 after Justice League was to give him cameos because they wanted to rest Superman in terms of making his movies. Again, what kind of leadership does that? What kind of leadership wants to rest Superman? And an incompetent one. One that doesn't know what it's doing clearly. Because the decisions with the DCEU have been flawed ever since 2013's Man of Steel. Ever since they decided to bring in auteur in Christopher Nolan to godfather this franchise. Totally the wrong person for a mainstream universe. Great director. Snyder's a great director. As I repeatedly keep on saying, these are not the people you bring in to run a mainstream audience. A mainstream audience DC Extended Universe. A DC Extended Universe for the general audience. These are not the people you bring in. I think a new broom sweeps clean. If we were putting our love for Henry aside, I think we'd kind of think to ourselves, maybe it's time to look to recast Superman. Because what are we going to do here? Are we going to continue the Snyderverse? The Hamadaverse? Are we going to do something new? You know my preference is to burn the DCEU down, not to release these upcoming 5 movies and start again. And until they're ready to start again, focus on the Batman universe and what they're doing with Black Label as well. David Zaslav and Discovery are in a rush to reset this universe, to do things that work. The very problem with this franchise from the very beginning, it was in a rush to catch up with Disney and Marvel Studios' Marvel Cinematic Universe. They were too focused on what Feige was doing. While we're discussing Ezra Miller, The Flash, and if Henry Cavill should remain as Superman, Kevin Feige is preparing to tell the fans his Phase 4 and Phase 5 storyline. The arc, because people have complained. People have actually complained, saying, we don't understand what you're doing here, Kevin. Kevin came out yesterday and said, actually, you're right, everyone. That's the kind of person he is. He's intelligent. I need to tell you where we're going now. And he's going to tell us. But there's no clarity or communication from Walter Hamada at the DCEU. And there are factions there. There's the faction of Toby Emmerich, who hates Henry Cavill. I mean, we even had, there was a talk show yesterday on American television discussing if Henry Cavill should remain as Superman. So Toby Emmerich's villainy even stretches to network television. So it's an interesting question, but it can't just be about my fandom and my bias and your bias. I could easily say yes, there's no question, Henry Cavill should remain as Superman. But what's best for Superman? What's best for DC? That's the real question you should be asking yourselves. Is Henry Cavill remaining and continuing this franchise the right thing to do? I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if continuing a brand with no recognition or loyalty is the right thing to do. I mean, even David Zaslav has recognized the problems with the DC Extended Universe. How do you create something within the DCEU for it to matter again? And for you to say, well, it doesn't matter about Justice League, it's part of this universe, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about Birds of Prey. It doesn't matter about Wonder Woman 84. It matters. What is this franchise? Is it the franchise of Zack Snyder? Is it the franchise of James Gunn's The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, which doesn't really have any real connection to the Snyderverse? It's its own thing. And you can keep on doing your own thing. And James Gunn, what he's doing is really, really good. But it's not got much continuity from the extended DCEU. So you look at the DCEU, and it's all connected to whether or not Henry Cavill should remain as Superman. And that question, is this a viable franchise? People keep on telling me the DCEU is, and everything will be all right. But how will it be all right? What are they going to do to get $1 billion global box office per movie? The reputation of this franchise is severely damaged. And it does go back to me being right about the Flash movie from the very day they announced that they were moving the Flash movie and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom to next year. And I sat in my kitchen and I fucking well told you that something suspicious was going on. I was the only YouTuber who said it, while everyone else was spreading propaganda about VFX and COVID-19 delays. And it was a lie, everyone. And from the very day I covered these delays, I told you. But here's the barometer of me, whether you should believe me or Grace Randolph or John Campion or Boba Talks. Who was direct and honest with you from the very beginning about this situation? Who now, after all these months, has proven that he was right? Because it wasn't about VFX. On that morning I recorded that video, I had no idea about the problems with Ezra Miller. I feel kind of bad. I feel like as a YouTuber I should have known, but I didn't. We slowly found out that he's partially the reason they delayed the movie. But the movie has problems within itself anyway. We know why Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom was delayed. It had nothing to do with VFX like James Wan was claiming. It had to do with Amber Heard. And we are where we are now. So I was right. So next time I tell you I've seen a movie and you don't believe me, go back to that very morning, that very video. You'll find it on here somewhere, right? I can't be bothered to look for it for you, right? Just remember what I said about those delays. And I told you something suspicious and dubious was going on. And I was right. There's no right and wrong here in this discussion whether Henry Cavill should remain as Superman. As a fan, I'm going to say, yeah, Henry should come back, restore the Snyderverse. But as an intelligent man with a high IQ, I take a step back and I say to myself, let's be honest, if we bring back Henry Cavill, that means we continue the DCEU, which is problematic. Isn't it problematic, everyone? Take your fandom to one side and your biases. I was like you once. When I heard multiverse strategies and everything's canon, I was so excited. All good reason left my brain. But the day I heard they were delaying Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom and the Flash movie and moving Shazam Fury of the Gods forward, I awoke from my slumber. And once you're awake, you can't fall back to sleep again. The Hamadaverse and Justice League are attempting to build on the bones of what Snyder created. You can't create a successful business, a successful platform on the bones of somebody else. It's rarely been done before because the mindset and memory goes back to the controversies of Man of Steel and the neck snapping of Zod. Batman vs Superman, a hugely divisive movie, as you all know. I love Man of Steel, I love BVS, I love the Snyder Cup. But the problem started then because they brought in auteurs to run a general audience platform. Because that's what they wanted. They wanted to, you know, they were in competition with Disney and Marvel Studios. They wanted to create what Feige had created. But Feige never cheated. Feige took his time. I agree. He was doing it at a time where there was no pressure. You know, where we had Smallville and nothing else to compete. He could do his individual movies and build up to the first Avengers movie with little pressure. I mean, there was a little pressure on him because a lot of Marvel fans, comic book fans, weren't happy with those movies. But ultimately, he asked people to be patient. And that patience was rewarded. WB, even from the days of Kevin Tsujihara when he was running WB, he was in a rush to catch up with Marvel. And that's where the mistake was. And the Flash movie is the same thing. It's a more slicker Justice League. Again, they think with one movie, they can readdress the balance and create a successful universe. That's why ever since they announced the multiverse strategy in the Flash movie, they've been greenlighting movie and streaming show after streaming show and movie. And a lot of those projects you're never gonna see. So, what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Should Henry Cavill remain as Superman? I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say something highly controversial. I love Henry Cavill as Superman. He's a great modern day Superman. Man of Steel is a modern day Superman movie. A lot of people compare Man of Steel to Superman the movie. Superman the movie wouldn't work today. Christopher Reeve was my introduction into DC and this character. I love Christopher Reeve as Superman, and I love Superman the movie, and I love Superman 2, my first superhero, supervillain battle, third act movie. But Superman the movie wouldn't work today. People would call the pacing slow and call it boring. Man of Steel was the perfect Superman film for a very disjointed, bitter, negative time. And it inverted a negative, reaction from a very, very tired audience. That is true. But Man of Steel was a modern day contemporary version of Superman, and I like it. But we have to ask the deeper question here. Is Henry Cavill remaining as Superman the right decision? The right decision for Superman, the right decision for the future of DC live action? Because as I said many a times, my decision as head of this company, I'm not head of the company, I'm not spreading rumors, I'm not saying that, but if I was the head of this company, I would just do something so dramatic. I would never release these 5 movies, the DCEU would be dead, and regrettably, even though I love Snyder, that would be dead, the Hamadaverse would be dead. I'd remember the Snyderverse with great, great love. But I think it is time just to lay the Hamadaverse in the coffin and the Snyderverse in the coffin and start from scratch, bringing the right people at the right time. They are going to create a DC Studios. Now, the decision they've got to make, do they want an experienced producer running DC Studios and knows nothing about DC, and they can populate this DC Studios with people who know DC? Or do you bring someone in like Feige who understands? Feige has been working on Marvel before the MCU. the Raimi trilogy, Singer's X-Men. You know, he's been around for years. Nobody knows more about Marvel than him. I don't think he's necessarily a Marvel fan, but he's been working on the platform and understands the comics. That's why he's been successful. He come up with a formula and it worked. What WB wanted to do from the very beginning was cheat. Kind of copy and paste that formula by cheating, by racing. That's why they did Batman vs Superman as their second movie. Batman vs Superman wasn't Snyder's idea. He was told he had to make a Batman and Superman movie, and he did something really fabulous and unique with it. But that wasn't his choice. His choice would have been a Man of Steel sequel, a Cyborg movie, a Flash movie. But they didn't allow him to do that because the reaction to Man of Steel was so divisive. The box office wasn't what they wanted it to be. So they did what they've done from day one and be reactive. And you can't be successful in life by being reactive. The most successful people in this world, Sir Alex Ferguson, the former Manchester United manager for 26 years, came to Manchester United. The club was in such a mess. He was losing, he was under pressure, they were going to sack him if he didn't win his first cup final against Palace. And after 4 or 5 years of being at the club, he started winning. But if they sacked him and were reactive in the early days, we wouldn't have won all that great stuff. And it's the same as Kevin Feige. The fans wanted him sacked in the early days. But Marvel Studios, who had a different leadership, because Kevin Feige at the beginning wasn't president of Marvel Studios. He had bosses. They stuck with him because they understood the man knew exactly what he was doing. But at the DCEU, they made a flawed decision in bringing Snyder and Nolan in from the very beginning to run a platform and a franchise for a general audience. But once you've done it, you can't cut the umbilical cord before you've delivered the fucking baby. And that's what they did. From the moment they got rid of Snyder, they should have rebooted it. Who knows where we would have been? Or they should have kept Snyder to finish off his arc and implement a Flashpoint story to reboot everything so the next creative could continue. Personally, I regret that we didn't see the complete Snyderverse arc and then started again with something else, which was the original plan. It would have been like they do it in DC Comics themselves. They have a story, then it's the next story. Then they do a Flashpoint and they start again like they did with the New 52. And other versions of DC. They reboot it. They start again. Sometimes it has that continuity. Sometimes with like the New 52, they start totally again. And a lot of people were against that. But they could have done that. It could have been successful. And the question of Henry Cavill remaining as Superman, you know, inverts these conversations. That's why I'm going back to Snyder and Justice League and the clusterfuck that the DCEU has been from day one. There are definitely great movies within this franchise, but it isn't a proper franchise. And the consumer doesn't respect it. Because you're not the consumer that needs to be persuaded. You're a DC fanboy or fangirl or however you identify as. The people they need to convince that the DCEU is a viable platform is the general audience. The people who go and watch the MCU movies, they're the ones that get it to $1 billion. It ain't you and it ain't me. We don't need convincing. We'll watch any old shit with DC and Marvel on it, or Doctor Who or whatever, right? We're nerds, we're geeks. That's what we do. They don't need to convince us. What Warner Brothers have to do right now is find a way to convince people the DCEU is fit for purpose. And they can't. For example, they had another opportunity with Black Adam. That trailer, that first trailer, would have been very, very important. And in my humble opinion, and it'll get more unsubs and unfollows on Twitter, I think it was a very, very underwhelming trailer. So again, they lost the opportunity to convince the general audience. And we will see in October how that movie does. Should Henry Cavill remain as Superman, or should we burn the entirety of the DCEU down? I think we should burn the entirety of the DCEU down and move on from Henry Cavill, as much as I love him, as Superman. This has been the DCEU Daily with me, Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wife. Please like, share, please subscribe, please like, and please tell people about the platform, because this channel ain't doing so well. So if you enjoyed what you saw, please tell the world about me. Until we see each other again on tomorrow's, Wednesday's edition of the DCEU Daily. Goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.